Welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial investment and retirement future. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris McIntire here with us as always. And today, Chris, going to be talking about one of the most commonly utilized tools that we have available to grow and build toward retirement. And that is the plan set up right there on our job site, the employer-sponsored plan, most commonly referred to as a 401k.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Peter. And, let's lump in the 403Bs in there as well, because we get a lot of people that work for a non-for-profit. So 401k, 403B, employer-sponsored plans. The beauty of it is almost the set it and forget it. The money comes out of my paycheck, just like paying your taxes. And I won't say you don't miss it, but, the contributions take care of themselves. And we'll talk about this on today's show.
You'll thank yourself for later for what you do miss now, right?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yep, you're betting on your future for sure. And the earlier you start, the younger you are, the more that you can contribute, the easier it gets because of the time value of money being invested.
Yeah, that compounding interest will work in your favor, as well as the dollar cost averaging. We'll talk about all of the advantages of the 401k, as well as some of the disadvantages and what you need to know about properly utilizing your 401k to build for an optimal retirement. Here again with Chris McIntire, president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services, offices conveniently located across Northwestern Ohio. You can find them online at McIntireRetirementServices.com, or you are always welcome to give a call to the program or the office and set up your time for a complimentary financial and retirement planning review. He calls it the strategy session, and to design your game plan for retirement. To take advantage of that offer, again, no cost, no obligation. Just call 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194, or once again, always available online, McIntireRetirementServices.com, McIntireRetirementServices.com. Now, Chris, that automatic nature of the 401k, that might be one of the utmost benefits of these plans, because human nature, we find a way to spend the money if we bring it home with us.
Yeah, we certainly do. And, I think we'll include ourselves in that equation as well. When there's money in the checking account, it's certainly easier to do things that are important, but also maybe things that aren't so important, needs and wants. So, the beauty of that 401k, especially the younger you are, as we kind of walk through the time frame of somebody. So I get a job, I'm working at the Whirlpool Corporation in Clyde, making washing machines. I come out, I'm 20 years old. I get an early job. I sign up, start putting money into that 401k, and I max out my contributions. And again, based on your age, how much money you can contribute to a 401k. It's more than you can put into your own IRA. That's one of the beauties. 401ks allow you to put more money in there, tax deferred. It could lower your tax burden. And then over the course of time, you're investing those dollars. And if the stock market does well, you get those early, very important returns early in life. And, I think, this show is probably geared more people toward the end of that 401k era than somebody who's just starting into it. But we do broadcast to a broad audience. And, it's very important. And there are Roth 401ks now. We're kind of lumping everything in here together, generically speaking. And just getting the money in there. That's what's nice about the 401k, the 403b is the payroll deduction, and then the automatic investment. So it automatically invests in the market for you. You don't have to worry about trying to time out the stock market, your dollar cost averaging, which means when the market is down and you're making a contribution, you buy more shares of stocks, for example, when the price is cheaper than you do when the price is expensive. So automatic deduction and then dollar cost averaging, two very important factors for long-term successful investing. And that's one of the advantages about that automatic payroll deduction. And that's my long-winded explanation there, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned several of the advantages there. One, the higher contribution limits. In our IRA, while we may have a little bit more control and versatility, the amount that we can contribute in any given year is limited. And with the 401k, we can put up to $23,000 into that account. And if we're over 50, an additional catch up, we could get potentially up to $30,500 saved per year for our retirement. And that's only our own money, not even including any kind of profit share or safe harbor or company match there. $30,500 per year from 50 beyond, Chris, that can make up a whole lot of ground to help us really supercharge that retirement savings in the last several years of our working career, and no income limitations on that 401k contribution, as opposed to the IRA, where if we make too much, we might not get the deduction, or we are just eliminated from being able to make Roth IRA contributions. So we can put a whole lot more in and don't have as many limitations with the 401k if we've got access to one, right?
Yeah, kind of navigating the minefield of all the little, the nuances and the rules and regulations. The 401k, like you said, eliminates the income exemptions that might be out there. So, example, let's say somebody makes, just for purpose of today's show, a husband, wife, they're making $300,000 a year, right? They cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. Okay? They cannot deduct IRA contributions, but they can contribute to their 401ks at work, or even their Roth 401ks at work. So, a nice way to sidestep some of the rules and regulations that, we have to keep track of on the IRA side of things.
Well, we love that it's automatic and systematic, and that the money comes out before we even are tempted to spend it, before we even see it or bring it home, that it gets into that savings. It's done for us. But we are going to talk about pros and cons here of these tools, Chris. That out of sight, out of mind nature of the 401k also sometimes leads to us ignoring some of the routine maintenance that should be done that will help benefit our financial future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's say, as an example here, what Peter's talking about is, you got nervous about the stock market, or read headlines, or the people you were playing golf with said this, that, or the other thing. And you said, okay, I'm gonna slow down my contributions, or stop my contributions, or I'm just going to put them in something that's way too conservative for your long-term risk profile. And then the market takes off and you do not reallocate and take advantage of that. So, the emotional aspect of investing, really hurts a lot of investors. And, I could show you emails upon emails from clients that are very emotionally charged with, a bad day in the stock market versus a good day in the stock market, if you will.
So, Chris, as we are at least in our younger, maybe more aggressive years, is it almost better to set a appropriate allocation and then sort of keep our head down and blinders on, and not react to the headline news or the direction of the market?
Yeah, yeah. The younger you are, the more time you have for that, by all means. And we have a lot of grandparents that come in and want to open accounts for their grandkids who have a 25-year, 30-year time horizon, and they want to be very, very conservative, like it's their money, and they want, minimize risk versus, look, you're giving this money to somebody who's 8 years old right now. They can't do anything with it for a very long time. So we need to let it run, let the market do what the market does over the course of a long-term horizon, Peter.
At what point, Chris, should that begin to change? Should we begin to maybe be more cognizant of, or even react to, the direction of the market? Or how do we go about that in that transition?
Yeah, so let's say, somebody wants to retire at 65, just to throw that number in there, and once they hit, just rule of thumb speaking here generically, really in about that age 55, they might, if they've had some success and created a nice nest egg, then they may want to start thinking about, look, let's take some risk off of the table and reallocate, and just get a little bit more toward where the preservation of my funds is more important than trying to double it. So maybe, you went from 80% stocks to 60% stocks and 40% bonds, just to use that analogy as you get a little bit older. And then once you hit the age, since you brought up ages, Peter, you hit the age of 59 and a half, right? Now we're at a whole different story here, because that's a triggering event for 401k investors and 403b investors as well, where you have access to your money. You're now 59 and a half, or a portion of it in the 401k, and you may say, you know what, I'm gonna roll some of this money over into an IRA, which is tax free. I have a lot more investment choices in the IRA world because it's your investments, not just the ones that are provided by your company inside the 401k. So you have a lot of different, I mean, from a bank CD to, individual stocks that aren't companies that you work for example, to, creating your own annuity if you needed to, just a number of different elements out there, and that's also a little bit easier once you do that, to do some of your tax planning as well, because you can do Roth IRA conversions a little bit easier outside of the 401k element than you can inside of it, because you have some layers of complexities, of course.
So, Chris, that age 59 and a half, it's not just the point where we now are past or avoid that extra 10% penalty. There are some additional flexibilities with our retirement dollars at that point in time.
Sure, let's call it independence, if you will, where you have a lot more choices, and your typical 401k is going to be loaded with mutual fund choices, and that's not necessarily a bad thing by any stretch. But if you want to hire somebody to help you manage, they're going to look for lower cost investments than even mutual funds, like exchange traded funds or ETFs that have very low cost to them as well. And now you can get into more of the tax planning or the income planning. Just opens up a lot of different options you have as you get closer to that retirement. So let's call it 59 and a half can really start your pre-retirement planning, if you will.
Now, that's one of the major downsides of the 401k that it sounds like we've got this opportunity to help us address, Chris, is that on the job site, yes, they give us access to this tool, but it's not actively managed, and we generally get very little guidance or oversight or help, quite frankly, in selecting how we should utilize it. So at age 59 and a half, that is a point in time where we can go outside of the 401k, take the dollars outside of the 401k and go seek some more proactive guidance, and just along with that comment, do you there at McIntire Retirement Services help people before that time and after that time?
Yeah, Peter, we, offer full service wealth management for people that are still working. And then those that hit that 59 and a half, that's probably where our bread and butter is, if you will. Our niche in the marketplace is helping them in that transition, and utilizing the fiduciary standard that, we've been adhering to for decades. And what we like to look at again then is, look, based on the individual client, what are their goals? What are their aspirations? What is their real risk tolerance? And we'll make a joke about that. The market's been performing pretty well, so everybody's risk tolerance is a lot more than what it used to be. And then you get a bad month in the market, and now you find out what the real risk tolerance is. And again, most people make emotional decisions. I'm wearing a green shirt here today because I just got back from Scotland, and I'm a green guy.
Well, again, talking with Chris McIntire, Chris, you told me all about that trip. It sounds fantastic. A little jealous there, but ladies and gentlemen, if you would like help with your retirement plans, with looking at your 401k, with getting some guidance on how to set that up or allocate that, or how you should be taking advantage, how much to contribute, or if you have reached that age of 59 and a half, or maybe even have an older 401k left behind, that's another great opportunity we'll talk about in a moment. Chris McIntire is here to help you make sure you're bringing those pieces together into a cohesive plan, helping you make forward progress toward those retirement goals. And if you would like to have a conversation, find out a little bit more, get that guidance that is so often missing there on the job site. Pick up the phone and give Chris McIntire and McIntire Retirement Services a call. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Now, Chris, we would be remiss if we did not talk about maybe one of the greatest advantages of the 401k, and that is the opportunity to capture additional dollars, the company match. We call it free money. I think that I'm working just as hard whether I get it or not. So not necessarily free, but I get that match if I put some skin in the game. And really, there's no other place in the financial world that can offer that kind of immediate and guaranteed return on my investment, right?
That is correct, Peter. The ideal scenario is, they're matching 4% of my contribution. So if I contribute 4% of my salary, then they're going to match 4% as well. And, like you say, free money. I'm self-employed. They're going to hand out free money. I want to take advantage of that for sure, because, that's, going into the stock market, and you've got all the compounded growth that goes on that. So again, another good element there. So dollar cost averaging, biweekly payroll deduction, if that's how you get paid. And then you've got the company match on there as well. So, it's very simple in a lot of ways to, get started in the 401k and get going. And, we'll counter that argument. The limitations could certainly be, the number of investment options that are available compared to the overall, investment landscape inside an IRA or a Roth IRA. And could be the cost of some of the investments that are inside the 401k, they typically are not filled with 5-star or the highest quality funds, and that's the only options you have. It's, goes plan by plan. So we would say they're plan specific to the options that are available to you. And, not trying to be derogatory, but, some of these things are important over the long haul. And, what are the cost of the funds inside of the internal costs? What does it take to run a mutual fund versus to run an exchange traded fund? It might save you 0.5% over the next 20 years. That's pretty significant.
Well, Chris, and I know that that is part of the fiduciary duty and responsibility that you have with your clients, is that when accounts are managed there at McIntire Retirement Services, you're basically doing apples to apples comparisons between funds. Hey, you've got this fund in your current portfolio, but this fund over here does the same thing, has the same exposure, has the same returns, but internally costs 0.5% less, which is going to help you, the investor's returns, right? You help make those comparisons and select the lowest cost funds that are available, where we are not getting that kind of comparison and value add in the shopping process inside of the 401k.
Yeah, correct, Peter. And when you're advising clients, they rely on you to make the hard, difficult decisions. And, hindsight is always 20/20. So that's why it's very important to understand the client's real risk tolerance so that you can make decisions that are in their best interest. And, we're dealing right now with a lot of geopolitical risk out there, around the globe. We got the election up and coming, and, what's going to go on with interest rates. So, I think that, the folks that we meet with, the people that are listening to the show here today are concerned, a lot of uncertainty, that's going on in the world today. And is war going to break out? Is interest rates, what's happening to the housing? There's a lot of things to be concerned of. So, when you talk with somebody who's a professional and acts in clients' best interest, that, should bring some relief to them and offer alternatives that aren't available inside the 401k to give them some peace of mind. We call them safe money strategies.
Yeah, and absolutely, Chris, a whole lot to be worried about going on in the world. And I've even heard comments go so far as, I'm glad that I'm older and I don't have to worry about dealing with what may be to come. They're expressing kind of a sentiment that younger folks will have to live through these difficulties or the repercussions of them. The reality of it, though, Chris, is that for younger folks, if the market is turbulent and volatile, that may still be an advantage. We talked about kind of this timeline, right? If we're closer to that retirement, if we are nearing retirement time, any kind of swing or big downturn in the market could be much more impactful for our long-term outlook and specifically the retirement trajectory. Whereas for younger folks, even though times may be difficult and volatile, may actually be an advantage. That's kind of the beauty of the 401k and the dollar cost averaging. And we do want to talk about pros and cons with the 401k. We talked about the benefit of the match that certainly can provide you momentum. So, just kind of a question on the other side, Chris, is there any downside at all to capturing or having that match on the 401k?
Well, it's hard to call getting free money a downside. I suppose if just to speak generally here, you're delaying the traditional 401k, you're delaying the taxes, you know, and that's where we're going here. So if somebody says, look, I want to have tax-free money in my retirement, then maybe you shouldn't be putting money into the 401k right now. And then you get the match and you're just compounding that. Maybe the Roth is the way for you to go than the traditional 401k from a tax planning status. And thankfully now under the Secure Act, I think it's version 2.0 or something like that, the companies can now do the match in the Roth 401k. So, thankfully we've opened up the, number of different opportunities here, Peter.
Can and do, though, are two different things, right, Chris? It is possible, but generally the company match, even if we're contributing on the Roth side, the company match is going to be a tax deferred dollar and a deduction to the company that is a tax for us later on down the road in retirement. Yes, they've got the ability and they're nice enough to offer that match for us, but generally, Chris, not always generous enough to go ahead and pay the taxes on our behalf. Are you seeing that to be the case?
No, not necessarily, Peter, and we'll see how it unfolds here as the years go on. We are seeing a lot more and doing a lot more Roth conversions where, we're seeing Roth IRA accounts in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, where previously, if a client had 30 or 40,000 in a Roth, we thought that was a lot of money. And, I think the younger side of the baby boom generation got in on Roth IRAs starting in 1985. They've been able to put more money into them where, the mindset has certainly changed that, in my parents' generation, income taxes were a heck of a lot higher than they are now, the tax rates themselves. And so, there's a lot more opportunity or, motivation to pay tax on the money now and have it tax-free in the future before tax rates increase to pay off deficits and to fund wars and so on and so forth that may be in our future.
Well, so Chris, that's one of the downsides of the 401k is that the taxes that would be owed on that account into and throughout retirement for this generation that has been saving in the 401k over the course of their lifetime, it's probably not that they've done anything wrong by deferring taxes. It's that has not been a mistake. That's probably been fairly advantageous. It's just that now may be the time to consider managing those taxes. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we know tax rates are going to increase here. And I think it's in the start of 2026 as what we'll call the Trump tax cuts expire, right? It's been 10 years. So they expire. They could certainly get renewed, but obviously, none of us are going to make any predictions on what laws Congress may pass or adjust.
Yep. And then maybe here where the rubber meets the road, Chris, the biggest thing that we need to know, it's not necessarily a downside or a negative about the 401k. It's simply what the tool is intended for, is that the 401k is an accumulation tool, but it is not a dependable source for generating retirement income and making withdrawals. And I think that there needs to be education on that transition and that topic alone, that too many people maybe are leaving that same model in place or even leaving that tool in place that is not the appropriate tool for the job that we need.
Yeah. And some people say, look, I'm just used to it. I know the website, and I'm just used to working it within it. And, so sometimes it's the path of least resistance, but that's not always the right path to go down. And, I would agree with you that they are, traditionally set up to be accumulation vehicles, not necessarily distribution vehicles because of the limited investment options inside of them. And again, we're not trying to be derogatory here, just saying as you go through different phases of life, so does your money. And it's time to explore what are those different phases. And then inside those phases, like the income phase, what are the best options that would be appropriate for you?
And in show prep, Chris, you provided a list of all of the topics that we've talked about. A couple that we didn't get to of the benefits of the 401k, but the list of the downsides of the 401k. That the 401k is obviously subject to market volatility, and then you've got reverse dollar cost averaging or sequence risk, subset parentheses dollar cost ravaging. Can you talk about why this is so important for us to know?
Sure. Yep. So, when the stock market takes a dip and we're working, if we're still putting money into it, that's dollar cost averaging. We're buying more shares when they're down low. Okay. The other side of that, when we're taking income out and the stock market falls, we got to sell more shares to get that income that you need on a monthly basis. We call that sequence risk. And, we utilize strategies to help offset sequence risk, right? You can't eliminate it because the stock market goes up and down, but you look and use different alternative investments, to counter stock market type sequence risk. And even bonds can go down in value. Look at 2022 when they raised interest rates 11 times in a row. That was one of the worst years for the bond market. So, anything tied to stocks, bonds, real estate, those things change in value and can change in value every day, where there are other safe alternatives where you can get 100% principal protection, annuities, CDs, certain annuities, CDs, things like that. And, just a number of different options that are available. And, and our job is to help educate the clients on, the ins and outs, the good and bad of everything, right? CDs are wonderful. They're FDIC insured, okay? But you're locking in an interest rate. Is it keeping the pace with inflation? And will it give you an income for the rest of your life that you can't outlive? And even if you die, pay it to your spouse? No, that's not what a CD does. So, trying to use the right tool in the right place.
Well, and the 401k is a tool. It's a fantastic tool, but even so widely utilized, there are still many, many questions about it. And we've got to understand the pros and the cons, and we've got to bring that tool together as part of the plan. Again, the tool, the 401k, does not constitute a retirement plan. Chris McIntire will help you better understand the tool, where it is appropriate, and how to utilize it, but also will help design that plan for you, bringing it all together at McIntire Retirement Services. They help savers and investors better understand the tools available, design the plan to better determine your outcome, ladies and gentlemen. So specifically, if you would like to learn how to retire or how to retire with confidence and know that you've got the appropriate tools in place to help you achieve your goals, pick up the phone, get that plan put together, your game plan for retirement that's available there at McIntire Retirement Services. No cost, no obligation. Just give a call now, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Whether you are saving and investing and accumulating your way toward retirement or are on the precipice of the transition to retirement, or even already retired, having a plan in place can give you more confidence in your quality of life moving forward and your financial well-being. So pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, Northwestern Ohio's resource for that approach to planning, that to give you a better understanding. He's helped so many across Northwestern Ohio, but so many more have questions and need help, Chris, and that's why we're always glad that you join us here on the program each and every week.
Yep, good to be with you, everybody. Enjoy the good warm weather up here around the lake, and thank you for listening today.
Always appreciate the time with Chris McIntire. Once again, the number to call, 800-868-1194. That's 1-800-868-1194. Chris, always appreciate it. We'll see you on the lake.
Yep, take care.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.